I'm in the game still rapping at a high capacity. If Nas wants to smoke, come in the booth. I will rap
You don't want
circles
no
around
smoke.
him.
He enjoying that 150 million, 200 million he done
Okay
made.
then, so then leave me alone while I'm on the field.
You was effing with him. He wasn't bothering you.
They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them, some of them know.
Jim Jones was never better than Nas. Jim Jones will never be better than Nas. And this is coming from somebody that's not a Nas fan. I love Dipset. I love the Diplomats. I love Bird Gang. But we not about to start rewriting history because Jim Jones got confidence.
According to Jim Jones, he had a greater impact on Shannon Sharpe's program than Nas did. When he announced that everything had changed, 50 Cent chose to let the streets do the math by posting an old federal transcript on Instagram rather than replying with a post or naming people. At this point, fans are discovering old wiretap clips. It feels like 50 reminding the industry of who is really untouchable and why some people have mysteriously evaded prosecution. Jim is emerging again, talking about diss tracks and shouting back like he's preparing for war and Rikers at the gym. Maybe Jim started this to make a point, but now he might have started something far deeper than music. There is a reason why Jim Jones's reference to Nas always has a distinct impact. Their history began in 2002, when Nas attacked Cameron during a Hot 97 outburst, calling his record whack without offering an explanation. Sufficient for Dipset to enter full attack mode. However, their conflict did not start yesterday. After Jim Jones plunged in headfirst, chaos ensued. He threatened to slap the Kofi off Nas because he felt that Dipet was making fun of Jim on mixtapes. In songs like We Fly High and It's More Than Music, he kept the same level of passion, but there's a catch. Jim had never been critical of Nas, and he always liked him.
I never got to, did I ever got to see Nas? I never got to sit down and have a conversation with Nas and things like that. I had called you about it and things like that. That was like, still one of the people that I never got to have a conversation throughout my history of rap and things like that. I think I would love to have a conversation with Nas. I wouldn't know if he knows it, but Nas was one of my all-time favorite rappers coming up and things like that.
I've heard you say that.
Since the barbecue and things like that. Like he really put the whole dope boy rap, crack hustler, get fresh rap into perspective before any.
The admiration soon turned to animosity when Jim made an appearance on Fat Joe and Jadakiss' podcast, and Fat Joe decided to stir things up.
Recently saw a clip on Instagram where a young kid was comparing you to Nas and saying that you got
that's my young boy
big hits.
He's wild.
Yo, he looked to you. He learned how to wear the BB Simon belt from you. He got his swag. Like, how crazy is that? Because in my era, you know what I'm saying? Nas is like a god.
In my era.
Jim was not done yet. And although that alone might have been left on the timeline, he was keen to discuss this topic in more detail.
Nas. But remember, Nas' first record, The Barbecue, came out when I was in 11th grade.
Yes.
So Nas was my idol when I was young. Like you did, came to dressing, the wordplay, the music, everything. I was a superior Nas fan, period. I'd never take that away from him. But then as I got in the game, you gotta realize that your rivals would be idols, and not to take anything away from that, I developed my own style and my own lane that these kids start to gravitate towards the same way I gravitated towards Nas when I was younger and things like that. It's a whole different generation.
Without warning, he blasted one of the most impulsive takes in the history of contemporary hip-hop.
Came into light and started going crazy that these kids love me. They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them, some of them know.
You know what I mean?
A lot
Like,
of them know.
Was doubling down, not stuttering. In addition to asserting his greater relevance, Jim positioned himself as more powerful than Nas of Queensbridge, the man behind God's Son, King's Disease, and Illmatic, the man who still sells out Madison Square Garden in his 50s.
Jim Jones. No diplomats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones. Check my track record, then check everybody else's track record. Then go to the billboards and check all my entries, then check all them entries and and I'm not taking nothing away from nobody. But I hear the comparisons and then be trying to act funny when it comes. No, I've been spanking a lot of this about the industry. I've been putting on.
Only did that interview stir things up, But it completely upended and ignited the situation before the podcast's dust had even settled. Shannon Sharpe was ready to go all out when Jim Jones made an appearance on his nightcap. He went on the show with Chad Ucinko Johnson and Shannon to defend the comments. But instead, he fueled the flames. Shannon wouldn't put up with him, so he started off by stating,
Question, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
You smoke, right?
Yeah.
Were you smoking when you said you better than Nas?
I might have been a little bit.
his subsequent remark had several people pause the telecast.
More influential than Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. I know I made a little boo-boo when we talk about the sales and all this type of. I don't feel like getting into that rhetoric about where I started and where he started.
Well, you said that bullshit.
But listen, Nas was nice when I was in high school. When I was in 10th grade, Nas came out. Nas was dope. We appreciated him. He had a little bit of run.
Makes another excellent argument, right? When you think he has finished, comparing resumes, he started off by bringing up the historical spat between Dipset and Nas from the early 2000s, in which he said he could beat Nas in impact but was a better Nas fan. He started to skirt the subject by referring to Nas's effect in fashion and naming him one of the flyest ever. But he kept coming back to the same conclusion. Nas doesn't have the same impact on the streets as he has.
Nas always came up second to Jay and DMX and all these other people. Like, he
Ain't
never
no
had
shame in that. There a lot of folks came up second to Tom Brady.
He never had that type of influence on us, except for his first album. I already told you, I used to want to dress like Nas because he had a lot of fresh clothes that the hustlers used to wear, and we used to see him on TV. He had one of the illest albums of all time. And then in high school when he had the barbecue and shit like that. So I'm a real fan of Nas, but he kind of lost me after the movie Belly and shit like that.
Shannon wasn't having it.
Bro, you been in this thing, but lyrically, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you.
Yeah,
Y'all
but look
ain't
how
ever
you
with
dress.
Nas.
Look how you dress. You don't even be in the same places I be in. The
But
things
I-
that we, listen to
I
me,
can be in the church house. You can't F with Nas lyrics. I don't know who told you that. Now look, y'all know you on that good stuff, but you're not seeing Nas.
Was so enraged at the same time that he started mocking Shannon's outfit.
Bunch of 40 and 50-year-olds in their panties because I said I'm better
It
than
don't
Nas.
matter.
Look at you. Look at you.
Nobody,
Ain't all in your,
ain't
all in
nobody
your
from
feelings.
Dipset gonna take
Shannon,
you
that
over
shirt-
Nas.
that
Nobody
shirt
from the
too-
Diplomats
that
but
shirt-
you.
That
Hey,
shirt
I got
too
a
tight.
Hold on,
Yeah,
Jim.
yeah,
Hold on.
with Nas.
That shirt too
Hold on,
tight.
Hold on.
That
Jimmy,
shirt's
Jimmy,
too
Jimmy.
tight. You want to go back
hold
to
on.
I really mean it? I really mean it started. We could go back to
but I
the
just
history,
said,
bro.
For you to even
Don't do
say
that,
that.
bro.
Watching Shannon and Jim fight was what I was doing at the
I'm still playing at a high level.
Hey,
You better check my record,
you
heard?
jumping up and
I'm still
down.
playing
You
at
need
a
to
high
go back
level.
and get Jada. Jada
I'm
done
rapping
cooked y'all.
I'm rapping at a high level. You better check my stats, bro. I will
we
run
not
circles
denying
around
that.
Nas rapping right. I will run circles around Nas rapping right
No,
now. Right now, I will run.
Put his
I will
microphone
run.
up. Let me
I
take
will
my
run
mic off.
Saturn. I will
Give me a
run
mic.
Saturn around Nas right now rapping.
when Jim said that Shannon was only using him for views. Unc then blew up.
This the biggest podcast you ever been on.
on,
You
hey,
know
yo,
what podcast
you know
you been on
Nas-
bigger than
hey.
this one.
Hold on. We off
I'm
topic.
not a
Hold on.
podcaster.
No,
Jimmy, hold on.
This is what I do. You see
Name
you
a
in your
podcast you been on
feelings? You see
bigger
in
than
your
this one.
feelings? You see
When
in
you
your
get
feelings?
big, you get
This is
invited to
what I.
Club Shay Shay.
This is what I do.
Nas get invited to
You a
Club
pod-
Shay Shay.
Shannon Sharpe immediately changed his role from podcast host to opponent once Jim told him that he was superior to Nez. Shannon was even eager to take Jim to the gym if he so desired. Shannon pushed not just his bars, but his body as well.
Start buying baggy your clothes, big fella.
Nah,
You
hey.
too big, man.
You talk about you in the gym. Now you want to get me? You want me to see me in the gym?
Oh, we can do
Since
that.
you like to talk that ish, now come see me in the gym.
We talking about
Come
working
see
out.
me in the
What we
gym.
talking about? Working out or strength?
Hold.
Working
What we
out.
talking about? Working out or strength?
Work however you want to do it.
We talking about
Since
work,
you got money,
if we talking about
put your
working out,
money
I
where your
burn
mouth
you.
feels.
If you got, so you talking about working
Run
out, I
them
burn
stacks.
you. You talking about working out, I burn you. You talking about working out or strength? Because you probably can lift a
Whatever.
lot more than me.
Whatever.
You're bigger than me. You're probably stronger than
Whatever.
me. But if you talk about working out, you talking about working out, I burn you.
this ain't what you do. This ain't what you want. You
I
are doing
burn
good when
you.
you
better
talk
go-
about Nas
you better
and
go to my
Jada.
IG.
You don't want to
better-
see
you better
this.
check-
Instead of responding directly to 50, he attempted to use the conversation as an opportunity to flex in the gym and challenge Shannon to a workout war, demonstrating his continued relevance and dominance in a new field. Nevertheless, that unique label was still looming large in the background. And 50 had already made his move behind the scenes while Jim was still deep in concentration on Jim trickery. As all of this was going on, the internet was devouring the information that A, as a former NFL Hall of Famer, now stood up for Nas. One fan exclaimed, "Shannon did what Jada and Fat Joe should have done, ... Thanks for bringing it out, Jones. You naive Shannon." Based on the facts, why were they so silent? During the interview, 50 meanwhile had been watching the spectacle from the shadows and wasn't laughing. But just when everyone thought this was finished being funny, fans brought up the clip again, so it became...
Yo, honestly, I can't, like, if it was like Jim Jones, imagine putting a pen to paper to write about him. He was so nice about him. How did you do that? What's the first sentence? What the fuck do you write about him? I'm not anxious to hear the Jim Jones diss record. Like, I'm like, yo, the used to have so nervous was like B.I.G., Pop, right? Even Cannabis, like Eminem, the used to have you like, if we go at it, dog, we gotta go hard. You know what I'm saying? But these Jim Jones, like, I respect you getting your money. You're like, exactly, right?
Dane, instead of blinking when 50 Cent heard Jim's better than Nas boast. He just smiled, took a few receipts out of his bottomless petty library, and called Jim Individual One, repeating one of the most controversial stories in hip-hop history, while Nas remained mute and Shannon was becoming swole. Someone else was seeing everything from the shadows, and that one caption had the internet in a frenzy. The federal designation Individual One is not merely a nickname. It was lifted straight from a 2018 wiretap of Tekashi 69, a phone call that prosecutors claimed contained Jim Jones, who was not identified in court but was alluded to as such, was played during Tekashi's 9 Trey Bloods trial. According to reports, someone was ordering gang members to attack Tekashi for leaving the set during that call, although Jim's voice was never formally verified in court and he was never charged. The street bloggers and 50 didn't let that moment pass. Now that Jim is trying to increase the popularity of his podcast and entice people to fight, 50 found the perfect chance to let everyone know that he is still remembered on the streets today. The meme that read, "So that's why they ain't pull him in," was one that he uploaded after quickly deleting from his Instagram archive. Jimmy, say that's not the case. Tekashi's legal case was updated by the Shade Room back in 2019. A reputable courtroom reporter asserted that 50 was compelled to write about Tekashi's alleged reference to Jim Jones as a member of 9 Trey. Then came that famous footage of 50 people appearing
out in Texas. Please, whatever you do, don't tell them I'm in San Antonio. Don't tell them I'm staying at the Four Seasons. Don't tell them, please don't tell them, man, because it's just so much pressure on me right now. I don't know what to do.
I'm afraid for my life. Jimmy is gang. Jimmy twitched while the internet giggled. This is where things go awry, though, because 50 and Jim have had a hostile relationship for years. And this episode with Nas gave him the perfect excuse to start dragging Jim about again. When Dipset was having internal problems at a G-Unit event in 2007, 50 Cent brought Jim Jones and Jules Santana on stage. When Cameron saw this as obvious disrespect, things became sour. Jim Jones was identified as an individual in a wiretapped phone call that prosecutors aired during Tekashi 69's federal trial in 2019, especially because the group was already breaking up behind the scenes. The term stayed despite Jim never being charged, and snitching suspicions were all over the internet. There were 50 posts total, and Jim said nothing for a minute. The caption for the old Bird Gang picture he shared was filled with Dipset nostalgia. "Why do you keep lying? My plan is to go back to Male Matrix and sleep till it's someone tell Shannon Sharpe. Don't start ducking this challenge now." Backwards Free Jim captioned another piece of Jim Flex. "Will you act as though you practice what you preach, or will You speak like a podcaster. Due to the fact that my footwear are tied, might as well get the job done, champ. Because you just challenged me in public. The reference to his close pal who is doing more than 11 years in prison on racketeering charges in Male Matrix was a barb that suggested 50 was fabricating a story and living in a fantasy world. To which Ooch co-answered, I don't want to. Do it in. Jim was preparing to go to war while 50 was trolled from the sidelines. Additionally, Jim posted, you've already lost if you're 40 years of age or older and fighting with me about Nas. You fell for it. And each time you all go viral, my streams increase. Older artists, I'm teaching you a marketing lesson. You feel mired in the past, irritated by the current state of affairs. And then the caption said it all. P.S. Any artist from my time period will get my attention. Dear, this game isn't free. Therefore, anyone enters the booth better have some dollars. Whether you like it or not, we labor every day out in the field. That's crazy because Jim kept baiting, challenging, and claiming to be more influential, while Nas stayed silent. Although fans are criticizing Jim, NS's entry into the game would be a poetic execution rather than only a diss.
Yeah, Jimmy boy, you should have never brought this up. Y'all are only 3 years apart, and Nas is just like murdering you. You asked us to look up the stats, and here they are. Like Jim Jones, like you got a couple songs. I mean, like literally, it's a couple. But we're talking about Nas. Let me show y'all Nas's last projects. Nas been getting it in since 2018. Jimmy, when the last time you put out an album? Oh, would you look at that? You have been dropping music. You've really been dropping music. But nobody's heard it. Nobody's listening, bro.